The sirens were already fading when the tow truck backed into our driveway. I stood there in my work clothes, apron still smelling like fries and coffee, staring at what used to be my car. The front was smashed in, the hood bent like folded paper, one headlight hanging like a loose eye. The driver shouted a question about where to drop it. My parents argued with him in front of the neighbors. My mom, Denise, told Mrs. Lee that I had been driving too fast again. My dad, Mark, added that I never listened. They said it like I was not even standing there. When the truck finally clanked away, the street went quiet. My dad turned to me, his face red. "You will pay for this," he said. He shoved a crumpled repair estimate into my hand. The number at the bottom made my stomach twist. "Why would I pay for something you did?" I asked. His eyes narrowed. "It is your car," he snapped. "You have 1 week to come up with the money." He walked past me into the house as if the decision was already made. I just stood there, fingers shaking around that paper, trying to breathe. That car was never just metal and wheels to me. I saw it again in my mind, clean and shiny on the day I bought it. Back then, I was working double shifts at the diner, wiping tables until my fingers hurt. I took community college classes in the morning and rushed to work in the afternoon. Every tip went into a jar on my dresser. I counted it over and over, dreaming about not waiting for late buses anymore. Before the car, I walked home in the dark, clutching my backpack and pepper spray. Sometimes the bus never came, and I stood in the cold for an hour. When I finally had enough money, I bought that used silver car. I named it Star, because it felt like my own small light. My parents never helped with the down payment, not with $1. They never offered to help with insurance. Still, they loved calling and asking for rides. They called it our family car when it suited them. Now, looking at the wreck sitting crooked in our driveway, I understood something ugly. They did not just want my help. They felt entitled to everything I had worked for. This was not the first time they used that word responsibility against me. I remembered the times the power bill was late, and they pushed the notice across the table. "Be a good daughter," my mom would say. "Help us out. We raised you." When I hesitated, my dad reminded me that I lived under their roof. He told me respect meant doing what they asked without talking back. There was the time my dad maxed out his card and told me to cover groceries. Another time, my mom called me from the store, saying her card got declined. She begged me to send money right away, then joked that I was the rich one now. Whenever I said I needed to save for school or move out, they rolled their eyes. My friends warned me. Naomi once said, "Kayla, that is not helping. That is manipulation." I defended my parents. I told myself they were just stressed and doing their best. But standing there with my wrecked car and that repair bill, it felt different. The pattern was suddenly so clear that it made my chest hurt. This time, I whispered to myself, I cannot let it happen again. I did not see what happened that morning, but their own words filled in the gaps. Later, little comments slipped out as they argued in the kitchen. My dad said, "You were the one who told me where she kept the spare keys." My stomach twisted as I pictured it. Me at work, tying my apron, totally unaware. My dad walked into my room like he had a right to be there. Opening my drawer, digging past my socks, finding the small ring with the extra keys. My mom probably stood in the doorway, arms folded. I could almost hear her voice. "Just take it," she would say. "It is not like she needs it today. And everyone will be impressed at the cookout." She had already bragged in the family group chat, talking about the nice car their daughter bought. I imagined my dad starting the engine. I knew Star sometimes made a soft grinding sound when she first started. My dad had teased me about it before. In my mind, I saw him hear that noise and ignore it. He pulled out of the driveway anyway, eager to show off my hard work like it belonged to him. And the whole time, I was wiping tables, thinking my car was safe at home. The day of the crash, I was in the middle of a busy lunch rush. Plates clattered. The kids cried. My boss shouted drink orders over the noise. My phone buzzed in my apron pocket again and again. First an unknown number, then my mom. I could not answer while carrying hot coffee. When I finally slipped into the back room for a short break, I called her. She picked up on the first ring, already crying. "Kayla, there has been a little accident," she said. Her voice shook, but she stretched those words, like she wanted them to sound small. My heart dropped. "What happened? Where are you? Are you okay? Where is my car?" I asked. She said my dad had rear-ended a truck at a red light. The front of the car was a bit smashed. Her words, not mine. She kept telling me to calm down, even though I had not raised my voice. Then my boss stuck his head through the door. "Break is over," he said. "You walk out now, you do not come back." My mom was still talking in my ear, saying the tow truck was coming. My job or my car. I swallowed hard, looked at my boss, and went back to the floor. But my hands shook as I set down the next plate. By the time my shift ended, the sun was low, and my feet ached. I took the bus to the tow yard since my car was no longer there to carry me. When I walked through the gate, the smell of oil hit me. Rows of broken cars sat in silence, like a graveyard. Then I saw Star. The hood was crumpled, the bumper hanging. It looked so much worse in person. My dad stood nearby, arguing with the tow worker about fees. "Highway robbery," he said loudly. My mom leaned against a fence, rubbing her forehead. When she saw me, she rushed over. "Thank God you are here," she said. "Your insurance will handle this. Right, Mark?" I tried to ask the simple question sticking in my throat. "Why did you take my car without asking?" They both talked over me. "We are family," my dad said. "Family shares." The tow yard worker cleared his throat. "Miss, are you Kayla?" he asked quietly. I nodded. He pulled a folded paper from his pocket and handed it to me. "This is the police report," he said in a low voice. "I think you should read it carefully." As I opened it under the dim yard lights, one bold printed line caught my eye. My eyes widened, and my pulse began to race. At home that night, I sat on my bed with the police report in my lap. My parents had gone to watch television like it was any other evening. The report said my dad was at fault. It said he was speeding and distracted. He had admitted it to the officer. Seeing his confession in black ink felt like a punch. I grabbed my phone and called my insurance company. When the agent came on the line, I read the report details. She pulled up my policy and spoke in careful, slow words. "Kayla, your coverage is mainly for you as the primary driver," she explained. "Other drivers have limited coverage, especially if they do not have permission." My throat went dry. "So the damage might not be fully covered?" I asked. She paused. "Your rates will most likely increase as well," she said. When I hung up, I heard laughter from the living room. I walked down the hall and stopped just before the doorway. My parents were talking over some game show. My mom said, "We will just make Kayla fix this mess." My dad grunted in agreement. Heat rose in my face. They had wrecked my car and already decided that I would pay for it. They did not even think they had done anything wrong. The next morning, my dad called for a family meeting. The word family tasted sour in my mouth. We sat at the kitchen table. My mom placed a printed repair bill between us. The number was higher than the estimate he had shoved at me before. "So," my dad said, folding his hands, "how much do you have in savings?" My stomach clenched. I had been saving for a security deposit and first month rent. I had worked so hard for that money. "I do not know," I lied. My mom sighed. "Kayla, stop," she said. "I saw your old bank statement on your desk. You have enough." They looked at me like this was settled. "You are the one with money," my dad said. "We need a car. We need to get to work. You will transfer the money tonight." His voice was flat, like a judge giving a sentence. My throat felt tight, but I could not make a sound. He pushed the bill closer, then stood up and went to the living room. My mom rubbed my shoulder as if she was comforting me. "You know it is your responsibility to keep the family safe and moving," she said. Then she walked away too, leaving me alone with the paper and my fear. I stared at the repair bill until the numbers blurred. Then, for the first time in my life, I heard myself say a clear word. "No." It came out soft, but it was real. At dinner, my dad brought it up again. "After you wash the dishes, you will go to the bank," he said. My hands were still wet from the sink. I turned to face him. "I am not paying," I said. My voice shook, but I did not look away. "You took my car without asking. You crashed it. That is your bill." My mom gasped like I had cursed at them. Tears filled her eyes instantly. "How can you talk to us like this?" she cried. "We are your parents. We have done everything for you." My dad crossed his arms. "Everything you have, we allowed," he said. "We gave you a home. We fed you. And this is how you repay us." They called me ungrateful. They said a good daughter would not question them. Finally, my dad pointed at the door. "If you will not pay, you can find another place to live," he said. The room felt small and heavy, but something inside me refused to bend this time. That night, I went to Naomi's apartment and spilled everything. Naomi listened, her eyes dark with anger for me. She was in her second year of law school and loved reading cases. "This is not just unfair," she said. "It might be illegal in more than one way." She told me to start writing everything down. Dates, words, threats. "Also, do you have anything recorded?" she asked. I was confused. Then I remembered a habit I had. When I came home, I often dropped my phone on the table with the voice memo app still open. Sometimes it recorded random background sounds. I had always ignored those files. We opened the app. There was a file from the morning of the crash. My finger trembled as I pressed play. We heard my mom's voice, bright and sharp. "She will never know," she said. "Take the keys. We deserve to enjoy the car too." My dad laughed. "If anything happens, she will have no choice but to pay," he joked. The sound of their laughter filled Naomi's small living room. My cheeks burned with shame and fury. I stopped the recording and sat very still. They had joked about forcing me to pay before the accident even happened. Something inside me hardened like stone. The next day, Naomi came over to my house while my parents were at work. We decided to see what else they might be hiding. Old mail was stacked on the hall table, some of it unopened. We sorted through envelopes, pushing aside store ads and junk. Soon we had a pile of late notices in my dad's name. There was a credit card statement showing a balance almost at the limit. The payment due box was marked in red. Then Naomi found something else, a letter from a bank about a loan denial. "They tried to get more credit and got turned down," she said, frowning. We logged into the computer using the password they always used for everything. There were messages from collection agencies. My head started to ache. Naomi leaned back in the chair. "Kayla, your car was their backup plan," she said quietly. "If things went bad, they knew they could lean on you." I felt sick. The crash was not just bad luck. It had landed on top of a deeper problem they never told me about. "Check your own credit report," Naomi said. "Make sure they did not drag your name into this too." Her words made my hands shake as I opened a new browser tab. I had never checked my credit report before. I thought it was something only older adults needed to worry about. But when the page loaded, my heart jumped. There were accounts I did not recognize. One line showed a store card opened when I was still in high school. The date was before I even turned 18. Naomi leaned closer. "Did you open that card?" she asked. I shook my head. The account showed several late payments. They were hurting my score. "That means someone used your social security number without your consent," she said. We both knew who that someone was. That evening, I went to the living room where my parents watched television. I held the printed credit report in my hand. "Did you open a store card in my name?" I asked my dad. He did not even look away from the screen. "It was for your school clothes," my mom answered instead. "We are family. Family shares everything. Do not be dramatic." Their words made the room tilt. This was not a one-time mistake. They had been using me like a tool, like an extra wallet. My chest felt tight. "I need to think," I said. I walked to my bedroom, closed the door, and locked it for the first time in my life. That night, I sat on my bed with a notebook. I wrote down everything I had learned in the last 3 days. I listed the police report, the secret recording, the fake card in my name. The page filled up fast. Then I made a new list labeled steps. First, I went online and opened a new savings account at a different bank. I transferred most of my money there, leaving only a small amount in the old account. Next, I gathered my birth certificate and social security card from the metal box under my bed. The box had always been in my parents' room before. Last year, my mom handed it to me and said, "You keep this now." Now I understood why that felt strange. The next day at work, my manager Gina pulled me aside. "You seem stressed," she said. I almost laughed. Then she mentioned that one of my coworkers, Bree, was looking for a roommate. "She has a small apartment near downtown," Gina said. "Cheap and quiet." That word quietly wrapped around my thoughts. That night, I texted Bree. "Can we talk about that room tonight?" I wrote. My thumb hovered for a moment, then I hit send. Bree's apartment was on the 3rd floor of an old brick building. There was no elevator, but the stairway smelled like fresh paint, not mold. Inside, the place was simple and clean. A worn but comfy couch sat in the living room. Plants lined the windowsill, soaking up the afternoon light. Bree walked me through the space. "This would be your room," she said, pointing to a small room with a window that overlooked the street. The walls were bare, but I imagined them with my own photos and string lights. We sat at the tiny kitchen table and talked about rent and utilities. Everything had a clear amount and a clear due date. No guilt, no drama, just numbers and respect. "I work early mornings at the bakery," Bree said. "I like things quiet at night. I pay my part on time and expect the same." Her words sounded like music. I did the math in my head. If I kept my budget tight and found a way to sort out the car mess, I could do this. She told me I could move in at the end of the month. We wrote basic rules on a sheet of paper and both signed it. As I walked back to the bus stop, the air felt lighter. For the first time, moving out did not feel like a dream. It felt like a plan. When I got home that evening, the mood in the house had changed. My parents were whispering in the kitchen, phones in their hands. Over the next few days, my phone buzzed with calls from relatives. My Aunt Carla was the loudest. She called to scold me. "Your parents told us everything," she said. "They said you crashed your own car and now refuse to help them. How could you treat them like this after all they have done?" I pressed the phone tighter to my ear. I could picture my parents, telling their version of the story. In it, I was careless and selfish. They were innocent victims. I took a breath. "There is more to the story, Aunt Carla," I said. "A lot more. I will explain soon." She huffed. "I hope so," she said, then hung up. More comments popped up in the family group chat. little jabs about lazy young people and respect. My parents never mentioned any of this to my face. They just walked around like everything was normal, but their eyes were sharp. Instead of arguing with each person one by one, I stayed quiet. I decided that the next time we talked about this, it would not be in private. It would be in front of people who needed to hear the truth. Naomi insisted I should talk to a real lawyer, not just rely on her school knowledge. So I booked a free consultation at a small law office downtown. The place smelled like coffee and old paper. The attorney, a calm woman named Ms. Harris, sat across from me with a yellow pad. I laid out everything. The police report, the repair bill, the recording from that morning, the credit report with the store card in my name. My hands shook a little as I talked, but I did not cry. She listened closely, then asked a few questions. Your father took the car without asking? Yes. He is named as the at-fault driver? Yes. She nodded slowly. Legally, he is responsible for the damage, she said. Your parents can try to pressure you, but the law is not on their side here. Then she tapped the credit report. Using your social security number without your consent is serious. If you wanted, you could report that. My stomach twisted. They are my parents, I said quietly. She leaned forward. I understand, she said. But you must decide what you are willing to accept. Are you ready to hold them accountable, even if it means they will be angry? The question hung in the air like a weight. I walked home with the attorney's words echoing inside my head. By the time I reached my street, I had made a choice. In my room, I printed the police report, the credit report, and a typed transcript of the recording. I slid them into a folder. My hands felt steadier than they had in days. That night after dinner, my dad started again. So, did you move the money yet? He asked. My mom stared at me, her fork paused in mid-air. I placed the folder on the table and opened it. These are the facts, I said. I showed them the bold line in the police report naming my dad as the at-fault driver. I showed them the rules my insurance company had explained. I pointed to the store card on my credit report. Then I read part of the transcript out loud, the part where they joked that I would have to pay. My dad snorted. Lawyers just want money, he said. They scare people for a living. My mom waved a hand. You would never take your own parents to court, she said. You are just upset. I did not yell. I did not cry. I am moving out at the end of the month, I said. I will not give you another dollar. They both stared at me like I had spoken a different language. The next few days were a storm inside our house. My parents shouted more than they talked. They called me cold and heartless. When that did not work, they tried something new. One night, my dad stood in my doorway. If you leave without paying, he said, I will tell everyone you stole the car from me. I will tell the police it was never really yours. My heart raced. That is not true, I said. I have the title and all the loan papers in my name. My mom joined him and crossed her arms. If you walk out, do not expect to be part of this family anymore, she said. We will tell every relative how you abandoned us. No visits. No calls. Nothing. My hands trembled, but I remembered what Ms. Harris had said. I have documentation, I replied. If you lie about me or touch my accounts, I will protect myself. My dad stepped closer, his face inches from mine. You will regret this, Kayla, he whispered. His breath smelled like coffee and anger. While he spoke, my right thumb slid into my pocket and tapped my phone. The screen lit up softly against my leg. The voice memo app began to record every word. For once, their threats were not floating in the air anymore. They were becoming evidence. The invitation for Sunday dinner came that week. My mom said they wanted to clear the air and make peace. I knew her too well to believe that. They had invited almost everyone in our close family. Aunts, uncles, cousins, even Aunt Carla, who had already yelled at me on the phone. They want to trap you, Naomi said when I told her. They want witnesses for their story. But you can bring your own truth. She told me to go, not to give in, but to stand up. So I agreed. On Sunday, I arrived last on purpose. The house smelled like roast chicken and spices. Voices overlapped in the dining room. Laughter floated through the hallway. I carried my folder under one arm and my phone in my pocket. When I walked in, conversations went quiet for a moment. Then people greeted me in stiff voices. We sat around the big table, plates full, but the food tasted like cardboard. My dad cleared his throat and tapped his fork against his glass. We asked you all here because our daughter has done something very hurtful, he said. My mom nodded, her eyes watery. She refuses to help her own parents after crashing her car, she added. Every eye turned to me, waiting to see what I would say. I did not speak at first. I let them talk. My parents told everyone that I had become selfish and proud. They said I had money but would not share. They said I disrespected them and talked back. Some relatives gasped. Others shook their heads sadly. Aunt Carla looked at me with open disappointment. Is this true, Kayla? She asked. My mom quickly cut in. She is just confused, she said. She is under bad influence from her friends. I straightened in my chair. I would like to share my side, I said. My dad frowned. This is not the time for your little stories, he grumbled. But my Uncle Sam, who rarely spoke, lifted a hand. Let her talk, he said. My voice felt small at first, but it grew steadier. I told them my parents took my car without permission while I was at work. I explained that my dad crashed it and then demanded that I empty my savings to repair it. I added that this was not the first time they had used my money. Some of them looked doubtful. So I reached into my pocket. I brought something you all should hear, I said. I placed my phone on the table, opened the voice memo app, and pressed play. The room filled with the sound of my parents' voices from that morning. Everyone heard my mom laughing as she told my dad to take my keys while I was gone. They heard my dad joke that if anything went wrong, I would have no choice but to pay. A nervous chuckle rose from someone, then died quickly. My mom turned pale. That is taken out of context, she stammered. My dad slammed his hand on the table. How dare you record us? He shouted. But the recording kept playing. Then came the second clip. My dad threatening that I would regret saying no. My mom talking about using my social security number for a store card years ago. Her voice was clear and sharp in the quiet room. I paused the recording and let the silence settle. Relatives shifted in their chairs. Aunt Carla looked from my parents to me and back again. Her mouth hung open. Uncle Sam finally spoke. Is this real, Mark? He asked in a low voice. No one laughed now. My parents' faces were tight and angry, but there was fear there too. They had always controlled the story. For the first time, other people were seeing a different picture. My heart pounded, but my voice came out steady. I did not want to do this, I said. But I am tired of being called selfish and ungrateful when the truth is right here. Everyone looked at me. My parents glared, but they did not interrupt. So I said the one thing that changed everything. I have spoken with an attorney, I began. If you try to touch my money or use my credit again, I will press charges. The words felt like a door closing behind me. I went on. The police report names my dad as the at-fault driver. My insurance company knows he took the car without permission. My bank and the credit bureau know that no one is allowed to open accounts in my name. I was not shouting. I was not crying. I was simply stating facts. But the air in the room shifted. My dad's face drained of color. My mom whispered, You would not really do that. I met her eyes. I will protect myself, I answered. I want a family, not owners. No one spoke for a long moment. The clink of a fork against a plate made everyone jump. For the first time, my parents looked smaller to me, like their power had slipped away. After dinner, people moved into little groups in the living room. The tension did not leave. It just spread into the corners of the house. My parents stayed in the kitchen, talking in harsh whispers. Aunt Carla came over to me first. Her earlier anger was gone. I am sorry, Kayla, she said quietly. I did not know the whole story. I should have asked before judging you. She squeezed my hand. Other relatives followed. An older cousin gave me his number and said, "Call if you ever need a place to stay for a night." Uncle Sam nodded at me with a serious look and said, "You did the right thing." When my parents finally walked past me to leave the room, my dad would not meet my eyes. My mom muttered, "You embarrassed us in front of everyone." But she did not mention the repair bill. Not once. Over the next week, I packed my things slowly and carefully. I took only what I had bought myself. Clothes, books, a few dishes, my old laptop. Naomi helped me move boxes into her car. On the last day of the month, I closed my bedroom door for the last time. At Bree's apartment, I carried the final box inside. I set it down in my new room and leaned against the wall. The silence was different here. It was not empty. It was peaceful. Life in my new place was not a magic fix, but it was mine. Bree and I shared chores and split the bills on time. No one slammed doors or shouted in my face. I worked extra shifts to handle rent and started a small payment plan for another used car. It was not fancy, but it started every morning. Naomi and Ms. Harris helped me send letters to the credit company that had the store card in my name. We began the process of correcting my report. It would take time, but each small change felt like a piece of my future being returned. Weeks went by with no word from my parents. Sometimes my chest ached when I thought about them. I wondered if they missed me or just missed my money. Then one evening, my phone buzzed. It was a long text from my mom. She wrote that she was sorry for how things looked, but blamed stress and money problems. She said family should not involve lawyers. She asked if we could go back to normal if I helped them fix everything. I stared at the screen for a long time. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. I knew that whatever I wrote next would shape the rest of my life. I read the text 3 more times before I answered. Then I typed slowly. "I love you," I wrote, "but I will not pay for the crash. I will not let anyone use my finances or my name again. I am willing to talk, but only if you respect those boundaries." I deleted and rewrote that message twice, then finally pressed send. She did not reply right away. That was okay. I was not sending it to fix them. I was sending it to protect me. Months passed. Sometimes my parents sent short messages on holidays. Sometimes they stayed silent. We were not close, but the constant pressure around my chest was gone. In their place, I had new people. Naomi, who answered my late-night calls. Bree, who left sticky notes with kind words on the fridge. Coworkers who covered shifts when my new car needed a tune-up. They felt more like family than all the guilt in that old house ever had. One cool evening, I drove my new car along a quiet road outside town. The sky was streaked with pink. Music played softly from the radio. I thought about that night at the family dinner. I thought about the one sentence I had said that turned everything around. I had finally told my parents that my life, my money, and my future belonged to me. The road ahead was uncertain, but it was mine. And for the first time, that felt like enough.